Hello YouTube. In August of the year 2020, the United States Department of Defense has approved the establishment of an unidentified aerial phenomena task force. The task force will investigate the sightings of unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, or as they call it now, unidentified aerial phenomena. They're using the same very hard to pronounce words as they had in the Soviet Union when they called UFOs an anomalous aerial phenomena. Anything just not to say UFOs. Well, the Pentagon says that the task force's mission is to detect, analyze, and catalog UAPs that could potentially pose a threat to the United States national security. And the Pentagon says that the Department of the Navy, under the cognizance of the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security, will lead this unidentified aerial phenomena task force. David Norquist, the Deputy Secretary of Defense, approved the task force. The Department of Defense established this unidentified aerial phenomena task force to improve the understanding of and gain insight into the nature and origins of the UAPs. The mission of the task force is to detect, analyze, and catalog UAPs that could potentially pose a threat to the U.S. national security. Let's look at the reactions of those in Russia, who, in my opinion, are qualified to comment on this new American development. Let's start with the Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation. It's the principal security agency of Russia and the main successor agency to the USSR's KGB, Committee for State Security, and you can see a number of videos I had presented about KGB and its interest in UFOs. Now, the FSB responsibilities are within the country and include the counterintelligence, internal and border security, counterterrorism, and surveillance, as well as investigating some other type of grave crimes and federal law violations. It is headquartered in the Lubyanka Square, Moscow Center, in the main building of the former KGB. According to the 1995 federal law on the Federal Security Service, direction of the FSB is executed by the President of Russia, who appoints the director of the FSB. So let's look at what they think. That this agency is interested in the UFO research is understandable. I am sure the Americans have been equally interested in the Russian research, and you can see my videos on the subject in my channel. Again, I underscore that we're not looking at the highest echelons of power of both nations and their mysterious joint research. Now, General of the FSB, a member of the Supreme Council of the All-Russian Movement Strong Russia, Alexander Mikhailov, was not surprised by the plans of the US military to create a working group to study UFOs. In an interview with the correspondent of the newspaper Slovo i Delo, the general noted that it's not necessary to unequivocally insist on the absence of extraterrestrial civilizations or any forms of communication with these civilizations. Why not? Let them study. We perceive the world in black and white, and it has nuances. That's what Mikhailov, the general of the Russian security agency, said, and that's very important to keep in mind. And let's look at something else now. The Russian newspaper Moskovsky Komsomolets asked the following: are there any services in the Russian army that study UFOs? And why exactly now have the Americans decided to return to the topic of unidentified objects? These questions were answered by Major General Vladimir Popov, head of the Federal Department of the Aerospace Research and Rescue, under the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, also an honored military pilot of Russia. To date, said General Popov. In Russia, it has not yet been officially stated that any center for collecting information on UFOs is working, although it is known that the Air Force, since the Soviet times, has always had specialists who collected information on unidentified objects. Although we did not call that, data were simply compiled on facts that were not immediately explicable or could not be clearly qualified from a military point of view. There were documents and directives that dictated that if there were any strange phenomena in the course of observing the airspace, usually they were associated with special meteorological factors. Well, they should be accurately described and the data sent to the main headquarters of the Air Force. We did this regularly. In the headquarters above, there were always services that synthesize and process such information. Why the Americans have suddenly returned to this topic, it is difficult to say unequivocally. Sorry, hard to pronounce. But periodically, from time to time, this topic always arises. About a year ago, Trump announced that they were considering such unidentified phenomena and should systematize them. Now, perhaps this is due to some political events from which it would be good to switch the attention of the citizens, Russian citizens and the world community, and at the same time get some dividends. They say this is what we discover and study. Although I do not exclude that the topic of UFOs gives the US military the opportunity to expand covert intelligence, says General Popov. Hiding behind the study of UFOs in the post-war years, and especially in the 60, 70 years of the last century, the Americans conducted active intelligence activities. Therefore, we have always been cautious about UFO claims. As a rule, later it turned out that the alien device turned out to be some kind of balloon, a probe of enormous size, with all sorts of spy equipment. We were not even ready to talk about such devices at that time, and the Americans were already launching such devices. That's what Popov believes. By the way, this is a very interesting view. Of course, he doesn't mention Soviet espionage activities on American UFO research, but that's understandable. So he continues, we used to shoot them down and get information about them that way, those balloons that appeared over the Soviet Union. It's quite possible that the Pentagon, under the guise of studying UFOs, will place secret intelligence facilities somewhere in Norway, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, or Estonia. In short, closer to our borders, General Popov said. I don't know about UFOs, but the Pentagon probably wants to watch our new hypersonic missiles, added this Russian general. He does not think that today the Russians would need to create a structure on UFOs similar to the ones that the Americans claim. They have a scheme for studying incomprehensible objects. In principle, it is worked out. This is what he is talking about Russia. Listen carefully again. They have a scheme for studying incomprehensible objects. In principle, the system has been worked out. That's how I understand his words. All information of this kind is taken into account by Russian command posts and duty services. It is fixed, registered, and transmitted to the top. And that's the way it is. There is more to learn. It is a matter not so much military as scientific. That's very interesting. Keep it in mind. And for the background on what's going on and current Russian UFO research, again, see my videos. But we need to listen to what more of the Russians say about the Pentagon developments. The corresponding members of the Academy of Military Sciences of the Russian Federation, Alexander Bartosh, has the impression that the problem of UFOs is used primarily for political purposes. This is especially clearly seen in the framework of election campaigns in the United States. Candidates promise voters to reveal some secrets of UFOs, to tell about aliens, about, in the famous American site whose bodies are allegedly stored. He's meaning Zone 51, Area 51. Therefore, this option is now used in the election campaign as a bait for voters, creating a group in the Pentagon that is generally inexpensive, and the step itself allows the candidate to say, on my initiative, a group of competent military personnel has been created to deal with the problem of UFOs, which of course after my re-election I will inform you about in a broad daylight. Well, now let's listen to Mikhail Gerstein. In fact, the United States has been periodically forming working groups to study UFOs for many years, says the chairman of the Ufological Commission of the Russian Geographical Society, and in my opinion, Russia's most knowledgeable and prolific UFO researcher and writer. At first, the Americans tried to use such commissions to determine whether Soviet intelligence agents were acting against the United States. But in the end, they came to ambiguous conclusions. These groups in principle did not come to any definite conclusions. In other words, they were able to find out that these devices, objects, or phenomena exist and respond intelligently to their pursuit, to attempts to contact them, and so on. But whose intelligence is behind them, such objects? It has never been positive to prove unequivocally, says Gerstein. Well, this is interesting too. Russian newspaper Kommersant FM asked a member of the Defense and Security Committee of the Federation Council, Franz Klintsevich, whether the Russian military has technologies that are close to extraterrestrials, and could Russian intelligence to masquerade as a UFO to get the data from the United States. Klintsevich thinks that today there are some developments on testing some aircraft in the United States, that the secrecy of which is prohibitive, but no one will ever admit it. As a result, the concept immediately came up that the UFO sightings in the United States are Russia's new developments. It means weapon developments. It will add nothing to us but authority, the Russian politician added. But I think this is completely absurd, not because we have nothing to show, but because we have other ways of getting information than direct intrusion. This is unacceptable, Klintsevich said. The subject of UFOs even reached Donald Trump. Although the president admitted that he does not believe in aliens, in June he said that he knows a lot of interesting things about the crash of a UFO in New Mexico in 1947, when an unidentified flying object crashed near the city of Roswell. According to conspiracy theorists, it was an alien manned ship. The US military denied this, added Klintsevich. Trump also admitted that he can declassify some of the data about this incident, unless, of course, the Pentagon task force finds new shocking facts about UFOs by then. Why do Americans need such a group? Well, the newspaper Evening Moscow asked the deputy coordinator of the Society Kosmopoisk, ufologist Alexander Petukhov. I greatly respect this Russian researcher and writer. He's been there for many years, and he's helping, of course, with the Kosmopoisk UFO Research Society, quite active in its time, and I think we should listen to him. The word UFO stands for unidentified flying object, Petukhov reminded. That is something that the observer cannot identify or explain. International statistics show that approximately 10% of objects can be identified as non-Earth origin or non-terrestrial origin devices. As we understand it, this is a small, tiny part. Thus, the task of the new U.S. Department may also become the study of terrestrial objects that may carry a potential threat. Working groups for the study of extraterrestrial objects have been created for a long time, Peter Hoff noted. Back in the middle of the last century, the Blue Book project was implemented in the United States at the expense of the government. The government was paying for it. After the public found out about it, it was renamed dozens of times, but it has always existed. Moreover, according to Peter Hoff, there are similar groups in every country, but their work is not given publicity. In the 1980s, for example, the tiny country of Grenada applied to the United Nations to create an international committee to study UFOs, but received no response. Of course, the study of UFOs proceeded in the USSR, said the expert. In addition to the group created by the government, there was a public commission which Peter Hoff was a member of. They collected information, thousands of letters from eyewitnesses. For 100 messages received by Peter Hoff, on the average, there was only one to work with, one serious one. The expert notes that in most cases, eyewitnesses observed the launch of spaceships, technical experiments in the atmosphere, or some rare natural phenomenon. Back in the 60s and 70s, the Americans came up with a classification of objects, A, B, C, D. A is completely terrestrial object, B of terrestrial object, but its description lacks details. C, there are no details. D, all possible information is collected about the object, but we can't explain its origin. Of particular interest is just the last category, but it is extremely rare, said the Russian ufologist. Peter Hoff concluded that the search for UFOs is an ongoing process in all countries. Therefore, the creation of the next working group in the United States is not surprising to him. So I wanted you to know what's going on, and of course I'll be bringing more information as all of this develops. Those who want to find out more about the Soviet and Russian UFO research, please look at the videos in my YouTube channel and read my books, available now in Czech, English, French, Dutch, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, German, Lithuanian. And I ask that you please keep your eyes on the news. Something is in the works now. If you can support my research, please look at the links in the description to this video. Thank you for your attention, and I hope to speak with you again soon.